Hello there. Today I'm sharing with you a really awesome recipe, especially for those of you who, whether you just don't want to eat meat or maybe you can't eat meat, but you love lasagna, this is going to be for you. We're going to do kind of like a vegetable lasagna. It's going to be cooked though in a cast iron skillet, which will make it over the top. I mean, everybody knows cast iron skillets just have something about them that when you cook in them, wow, it tastes completely different. So we're gonna jump right in because I know you're gonna love this recipe. It's pretty easy to make. What we're gonna do, we're gonna start with an egg. We're just gonna add an egg in a bowl. Okay, then we're going to add a whole container of ricotta cheese. Go ahead and add that in there. Okay, we're gonna add in, this is a cheese mixture blend. This is like, I've just kind of put it together myself. It's Parmesan cheese, it's Asiago cheese, there's some mozzarella cheese in here, but just kind of like an Italian blend. And if you don't like any of those, you just customize it to whatever cheese you like. But I'm gonna go ahead, put our cheese in there. I think I'm gonna save a little bit out maybe for the top. All right, and again, we're always gonna flavor every layer. So we're gonna do some salt and pepper. And I have 1/4 cup of shredded up fresh basil. We're gonna add that in. And then we're gonna just stir all this up really good and let this sit while we start cooking some of our veggies. And you know what? This is an awesome recipe. Today, I'm gonna do it in my big cast iron skillet because we're having some friends over to eat with us. But normally when I'm cooking for two and it's just Kyle and I love to do this in my small cast iron skillets. I have some 6-inch skillets, and actually I'll leave a link for you where you can grab you up some if you don't have any, because they're perfect. You can make this and you can divide it into your small skillets, and then you each have your own serving when you're cooking for two. So here's our mixture here. All right, that's mixed up really well. We're gonna let this sit and we're gonna move on to the next step. Okay, we're ready for the next step. What we're gonna do is, and you know what, y'all are just gonna have to excuse my messy kitchen. I've got like 14 different things going on at the same time because we are having company. And if you'll see right over here, I have these delicious, beautiful homemade croutons. Oh my goodness. They are so good. There's nothing like a homemade crouton. Okay, so back to what we're doing here, our skillet lasagna, by the way. And I'm gonna turn my heat on, turn it to about a medium high heat. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And then as you can see on my cutting board here, we've got some red pepper, some onions, and some mushrooms. Here again, you can substitute whatever vegetables you would like to use, okay? This is what I'm using today. And the mushrooms are really better if you can do a couple of different varieties. It just gives you a little bit more depth of flavor, but we're a little limited in our selection, so I'm just going with the baby Bella mushrooms. Cut them up a little bit larger, which is always a good idea, because if you're having company, especially if you don't know for sure what they like, when you cut your sections larger, if they don't like the mushrooms, it's easy for them to take it out. So we are going to take our mushrooms, put them in our skillet, and we're gonna let these cook just a little bit before we actually season them. But don't forget, seasoning is very important. But we are gonna let these get going just a little bit before we add any seasoning to it. So we're gonna let these cook for about probably 5 to 7 minutes. We want them to get a little bit tender, and then we'll add in the rest of our veggies. Okay, our mushrooms are looking really, really good. So I'm going to transfer these mushrooms into another bowl. We're gonna let them just kind of hang out and rest for a little while. And y'all, I'm not picking up this big old skillet because these cast iron skillets are heavy. And my smaller one, I can usually, pick it up. But this one, Whew, I will just scoop the stuff out because it is just a little bit too heavy. Okay, so we have that out, leaving our heat where it is. We're gonna add just a tad bit more olive oil. Now we're going to throw in our peppers and our onions, and we're gonna let these saute together for a little bit. Okay, we're gonna add just a tad bit, doesn't take much. A tad bit of salt. Oh, they smell so good. Salt and pepper. We're gonna let these just cook away and do their thing and just glaze and release those sugars. And oh my goodness, this is so good. Okay, we're gonna just let it go. Okay, our onions and peppers are looking great. Now we are going to add in some fresh spinach and let that wilt down. And we're also gonna add in a couple of cloves of garlic. And what we're gonna do with this is we are just gonna get our little plane here, and we are going to just grate this garlic right down here. This is a great thing to use when you want your garlic to be really fine. Now it looks like there's none there, but you just tap it on the side and all that goodness will fall out. You always want to clip off or trim off the end, and then you just grate away. And of course you can chop it, you can use the little press, however you like to do it, but I like to grate mine in situations like this. Okay, we're going to give this a good stir and let this cook for about 2 to 4 minutes. We want to give this spinach time to get good and wilted and soak up all the goodness that's in this skillet. Okay, we're getting close to being to the end of this recipe where we can get this cooking in the oven. We have all of this goodness right here is finished. So we have our bowl. Remember, we put our mushrooms in where they're resting. Now we're going to add this mixture that's in the skillet. We're going to add all of this. Look how beautiful this is. I mean, oh my gosh. Look how green that spinach is. The red peppers. It's beautiful. Okay, so we're going to add this in. Get my little spoon here. Get all of that out. Then there's one more ingredient that I'm going to add to this, and we're going to mix this up and we're going to move on to the next step. But I did want to point out to you, I'm not just using regular diced tomatoes, but I am using the fire roasted. Now, I understand a lot of times it may not be possible for you to get fire roasted ones. Maybe you can't find them in your store. But for me, I order these from Thrive, and that way I make sure that I always have some in my pantry, because it does change the flavor a little bit. There again, it would be fine with regular tomatoes, but if you want to give your dish just that little something that kind of makes it stand out or pushes it over the top a little bit, it's things like these little things that can do that for you. So if you're able to get the fire roasted ones, I highly recommend that you do that. But if not, don't let it keep you from making this recipe, because it is still gonna be delicious. So now we're gonna take these and we're gonna add them into our bowl. And we are going to mix this up. Okay, and then we're gonna let this kind of just sit here for a little bit, and we're gonna move on to the next step. We don't have to dirty up another dish. This is the skillet that I cooked in. So what we wanna do is you just kind of wanna take it, give it a good little wipe, and get it ready for the next thing, because we're actually going to cook our lasagna in this skillet. wiped out our skillet. I put a little bit of olive oil in there. I'm gonna just kind of wipe that around a little bit. Coat our skillet good so that it doesn't stick, as we actually are gonna use, I don't know if you're a fan or not, but we have the oven ready noodles so they don't have to be boiled. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take them right out of the box. It's kind of nice because it cuts out that step of having to boil and drain your noodles. But if you don't like this, you can use just regular noodles. You just have to boil them. Okay, you're gonna have to break these up because you want them to fit. Now that one does good. You want them to fit in the bottom of your skillet. You're gonna do a row of noodles, but you just kind of break them and get them to fit the way that you need them to. Just put a layer of noodles in there. All right, we have a layer of noodles, so now we're gonna come in and we're gonna use about 1/3 of our tomato mixture, okay? And we're just gonna spoon that on there. You know, just kind of eyeball it. Spread it around a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get our ricotta mixture that we had. And a lot of times, if you want to, just kind of an easy way, you can spread this out and you can just kind of like, you know, section that off to where you know where 1/3 is, or just eyeball it. Like I said, it's not that big of a deal. We're gonna add a layer of our ricotta cheese mixture. And this is gonna kind of move around a little bit, but that's okay. We can put everything back in place once we get through smearing it out. And remember, this is gonna melt and run everywhere once it gets in the oven. I am gonna add just a tad bit more right there though. I'm gonna be using a jarred Alfredo sauce, and this is what I'm using. So we're just gonna take and use 1/3. We're gonna pour 1/3 of this on our, this layer. Probably about 1/3. Now, you know what? We're gonna just start over with our noodles. This is the final touch. I saved the little cheese that we had at the beginning. If you remember, I saved a little bit of that cheese mixture and I added about 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan. So what we're gonna do now is kind of mix it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna take and just sprinkle it all over the top here. And this is gonna be ready to go in the oven. We're just gonna cook it in this cast iron skillet, and oh my goodness gracious. This is definitely a recipe that you will want to go to my blog at www.cookitfortwo.com. You can go to my blog. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can subscribe to my blog because you'll be able to go there and see this great recipe as well as many other great recipes, and you can download them, print them out. You can just cook them while you're looking at them, but you have to subscribe to my blog to be able to do that. This is a great recipe to have, like I said, whether you're cooking for 2 or you have company. I encourage you, get in your kitchen, give this a try. I hope you picked up something that you didn't know before. Lord bless you. And I hope you